Hi everyone, I'm Ashley Russell and I'm here with Emily Wade, and we're going to be talking about our digital simulation project, which is American versus European put options and American put option policies. So just for an introduction, the goal of this project is to apply statistics, digital simulation, and Monte Carlo methods to identify whether an American put option or a European put option is more financially beneficial, and then also to identify which option selling policy results in higher profits. So as a team, we believe that the American put option will result in higher profits just because of the flexibility that you have with the American option. You can sell it whenever you want, as opposed to the European option where you can only sell it on that expiration date. Also, the team's going to test 3 different selling policies using Monte Carlo to find the policy that most often results in the greatest profits. So to give you some background and kind of motivation behind why we chose this project, the idea actually came from an assignment to use the Black-Scholes model for estimating prices of European-style options. And just to give you some background in case you didn't know, just to give you like the difference between the European and the American-style option, and then what a put option is. A put option is the right to sell an option, while a call option is the right to buy it, and then there are 2 different styles. So the European style option gives the holder the right to buy or sell an option on the expiration date, where the American style gives you the right to sell or buy by the expiration date. So there is greater flexibility with the American option. And then the stock market is relevant, and it's something that people talk about a lot. So having guidance on best practices in certain financial areas, such as options, can go a long way in improving and maximizing profits from investments.
Okay, so now getting into our literature review. Much research has been done on this area with options, and during our research we found that the consensus of most people is that the American options are preferred, and that's just really because of the flexibility, and it gives the buyer a lot more freedom, the investor a lot more freedom to do what they want with their option. And as Ashley said, the American put is the right to sell at any time up to the expiration of the put option, and the European put is the right to sell on the expiration date of the put option. And then we found that there's no direct analytic formula for calculating the value of an American option. With the European option, you have Black-Scholes, but with the American option, they're evaluated through simulations and optimization procedures. In this project, we're going to be addressing 2 main research questions, and those research questions are the following. Does an investor have a higher probability of making more money through an American put option or through a European put option? And the second question that we'll be addressing is, which policy for selling the American put option will produce the most money for the investor? We've created 3 policies, and these policies will be all simulated off of a 1-year time frame, or 365 days, and I'll get into the details of those policies in the next slide. So with our policies, we kind of want to encompass the standard types of investors that are going to be playing the market. And so policy 1 states that if the option price increases more than 25% at any given time, sell the option. And this kind of conveys a play it safe investor, in which this type of an investor would be seeking to just capitalize on what they've gained, and they don't want to risk losing what they've already made. And so they're going to pull it out as soon as it gets to a pretty decent amount that they've made. Policy 2 states that if the option price decreases more than 10% from the highest value it has reached, sell the option. So this kind of conveys a scared investor. This type of an investor will see that they are starting to lose money that they've already gained, and they will go ahead and sell it to avoid losing any more than they already have. And then policy 3 states that to sell the option on the expiration date of the option. And this conveys an investor who wants to give the option as much time to try and make the most money they can out of their option. And selling this option on its expiration date is exactly what the European put option allows the investor to do, but we made this policy 3 because we found some articles that indicated that this would be the best option to make the most money out of your option. And so it's gonna be really interesting to see if the European put option approach actually does yield the most money compared to these other two options or not. So our hypothesis states the following. Statistically, an American put option has a higher probability of maximizing profit for an investor than a European put option. However, selling an option on expiration date, which is policy 3, will yield the highest profit between policy 1, policy 2, and policy 3. As far as our methods of study go for the addressing the first part of our hypothesis, to try and prove that the American put option will produce a higher probability of making maximum profit, we're going to either statistically prove this through probabilities and just analytical math, or we could statistically prove it through Monte Carlo simulation. So those are two options when addressing the first part of our hypothesis. And then to try and prove that policy 3 will yield the highest profit out of all of the policies that we've stated, we're going to use a combination of MC, Monte Carlo, and MCMC, Markov chain, Monte Carlo, to simulate each of the different policies to see which one on average yields the highest profit. So it's going to use some of the policies, the way we're going to have to set it up are going to use Monte Carlo methods, and others will be using the Markov chain Monte Carlo. For example, with policy 1, to see if if the money that you're making has increased to 25%, we're going to have to simulate and based off of the last known position, keep the best option. So that's going to kind of be the Markov chain Monte Carlo approach to having that ratio to say if it's better, yes, we're going to take it, and we're going to store that value as our biggest amount of money. And if not, we're just going to discard it and go off of the previous amount, largest amount. So that kind of gets that Markov chain Monte Carlo approach in there. So as for our expected results, Ashley and I do believe that statistically the American put option will produce a higher probability of making maximum profit for an investor than the European put option. And we're going to just prove that through probabilities and actually calculating it out and doing the math and hopefully proving that out of the 365 days that you're able to sell your American put option, the probability of the maximum profit being on one of those days will be higher than it being just on that single one day for the expiration date for the European put option. So we're going to go through that math and prove that out. And then we also believe that policy 3 will yield the highest profit out of the 3 policies that we created. And this expectation is based off of a journal article that states the following. It is better to wait until the expiration date to take action with the option, even though you have the choice to act before. And we kind of found that statement reoccurring in our research. So we based our expectation off of that research that policy 3 will yield the highest profit out of the 3 policies. And then if these expected results prove to be true, that'll also prove our hypothesis to be true.
So as far as the business case goes, why would this research be worth investing in? This isn't as applicable to a company as it would be to an individual. So knowing what kind of financial behavior results in the highest profits is obviously important to people investing, just in general, but specifically in put options here. So taking a course or buying materials based on the results of this work would be worth that investment because you would be maximizing your profits in the end. And if an investor has a technical skill and the resources to conduct their own studies on policies that we didn't talk about here, or just to verify what we talked about, the cost would only be the time spent on that research and on that work. So this is more beneficial to just individuals on an individual basis who are wanting to invest in put options. So the way a company could maybe use this is if they were conducting an informative class on the topic for their employees. The cost would be marginal for any resources or time spent doing the research, and it would result in better educated and thus happier employees. So that's really the only way that a business could make direct use of this, and as such, like, the MAR doesn't really need to be considered just because of the nature of this project. So to conclude, through this project, the team hopes to be able to use Monte Carlo simulation to first verify that American-style put options are more profitable than European-style put options, and to establish good selling practices for American-style put options. So we're going to use MATLAB to run Monte Carlo simulation to test several different selling policies that we went over earlier, and then we're going to discuss the results of each policy and recommend what we feel is the best one. And then the project requires minimal costs but can help individual investors maximize investment profits. And then here's a list of our sources. Feel free to look through any of these. Several of them are actually really interesting, really relevant to our topic, so they're worth taking a look at. But that's all we have for you today. Thanks for watching.